Good evening, Singapore. Good evening too to our viewers across the globe. Welcome to Bayanihan Talks webinar series. I am Minnie Lau of the Philippine Bayanihan Society Singapore and the moderator for tonight. Join me as we discuss Stock Market 101, the basics in investing in the Philippine stock market with Mr. John Garcia, Markets Education Department Head of the Philippine Stock Exchange. Before we proceed, before we call on our guest speaker, allow us to play the video of the sponsor of tonight's webinar, Century Properties. Thank you, Century Properties. Before we proceed, please allow me to introduce our Bayanihan Society here and give you a glimpse of who we are and what we do. The Philippine Bayanihan Society Singapore was officially inaugurated in August 2001. It is managed by a board of directors led by our President Emeritus Jenny Chua and Honorary President Ranveer Kumar Singh, and all are volunteers. We are housed at the Bayanihan Center, a 4-story building located at 43 Pasir Panjang Road, just opposite the Maple Tree Business Center and a walking distance from Labrador Park MRT. The society is a recognized volunteer welfare organization and a member of the National Council of Social Services in Singapore. Our main objective is to promote advancement of education and skills and to promote a venue for the conduct of education, training, and personal development programs for Filipinos in Singapore. Bayanihan Center is the home to Filipino Overseas Workers in Singapore, or FAOs, and also to Ateneo LSE program, or Leadership and Social Entrepreneurship program. Virtual lessons are ongoing. The Society has been organizing Bayanihan Talks, which have now evolved into webinars like tonight's webinar. The center also has meeting rooms, a tambayan room, letterboxes, and a professionally designed photo studio that is available to organizations in Singapore. We are also the team behind the popular annual Bayanihan Walk, which is currently on hold due to COVID-19 pandemic, and also the team behind the annual Bayanihan Lecture. And with Christmas around the corner, we are now working to bring to you a special opportunity to sing and learn to sing with the world famous Philippine madrigal singers. Mads will conduct the lessons online, which involve 12 sessions in November and December. This will culminate in a recorded recital with them before Christmas. So please join us and register. And so, without further ado, I'd like to call Attorney Ranveer Kumar Singh, the Society's Honorary President, to say the opening remarks. Attorney Ranveer, please.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Minnie, for the introduction. And I also like to thank our sponsor for this evening, Century Properties, for sponsoring our talk. What a wonderful display of their properties there was on the video that we saw just now. Now, Minnie has already given you an outline of what the Bayanihan, Philippine Bayanihan Society is and does in Singapore. Let me just highlight a couple of points. The first is, it is a manifestation of cooperation between the Singapore government and the Philippines government insofar as people-to-people exchange are concerned. So we are very much into integrating Filipinos into Singapore and for Singaporeans to understand about Filipino arts, culture, apart from the education, training that we do at our centers, and also apart from the social and cultural events that we hold at the center. So you have seen the activities, a whole range of activities that we do at the Bayanihan Center. And as Minnie has pointed out, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have not been able to do in-person meetings. And therefore, we are reaching out to our constituents and our well-wishers and new friends through virtually through our Bayanihan talks. Now, at the center, we were working along with the whole range of the Philcom groups that are in Singapore. There are quite a number of them now. Over the last 20 years, I think there have been about 17, 18 of them which have mushroomed. There was only one in 1989 when I first got involved with the Filipino Association. We organize some signature events in the course of the year. For example, the Bayanihan Walk, which Minnie mentioned. That's one of our signature events, which is awaited by many people in Singapore because it does bring a lot of people together. Apart from it helps to raise funds for our activities. We had the Bayanihan Lecture, which is patterned after the Singapore Lecture Series, and that is a major event which is held annually. We have held over 2 years now, which brings in thought leaders to share with us on their thoughts in relation to what we do. Now, the Bayanihan talk has taken by storm. We started this Bayanihan talk, although in person, about 3 years ago, but the virtual Bayanihan talks were started just in June, and it's really taken by storm because we've got very good response, especially people from overseas as well. And that's very encouraging because the whole purpose is to reach out to as many people as possible who can then benefit from what we do. As Minnie has mentioned, we are adding a new feature to our program, and that's under the banner of Bayanihan Kultura. And with that, we are going to start the online singing lessons together with Mats, Philippine Madrigal singers, as you all, many of you will know, are world famous. And I am sure that many of you will be, I hope that those of you who join, you'll turn out to be very good singers after being trained by them. At the end of this session, watch out for the video of how they have trained people and to the level of singing quality they've been able to achieve. I hope you'll enjoy that. So we are extremely fortunate this year, today, to have Mr. John Garcia of the Philippine Stock Exchange, talking to you about investing in the Philippine stock market. I'm sure you'll find his talk very useful and also useful for your decisions in making investments in the Philippine stock market. So do enjoy yourself this evening and don't forget to sign up for the online course which you will be informed about the registration process for the singing lessons with Mars. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Attorney Ranvier. Thank you for the opening remarks. May I now call on Ms. Marianne Arguillas Chua, the Honorary Secretary of PBSS, to introduce our guest speaker. Marianne, please.
Thank you, Minnie. Good evening. Our speaker this evening is an economist and capital markets professional with extensive experience in the Philippine equities market. He has been in the industry for more than 10 years. He is currently the OIC and head of the Market Education Department of the Philippine Stock Exchange. He manages the PSE Academy website and the exchange official social media accounts. At PH Stock Exchange, which includes Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, Mr. Garcia is also the program director of the PSE Certified Securities Specialist course, which the exchange conducts with partner universities. Mr. Garcia implemented 17 major PSE projects, and the most recent is the PSE Electronic Allocation System, or PSE-EC. It was during the PSE-EC implementation that initial public offerings had the most diverse retail investor base, as local investors from 62 of the 81 Philippine provinces and Filipinos overseas were able to participate. This indeed is an unprecedented nationwide and international distribution and is considered a concrete move towards financial inclusivity for Filipinos. Mr. Garcia has a Master of Management and Bachelor of Arts in Business Economics degrees from the University of the Philippines. He is also a PSE Certified Securities Specialist, a course he completed at the Ateneo Graduate School of Business. May I now invite Mr. Garcia to address us.
Good evening, everyone, and of course, good evening to our kababayans in Singapore. Sana po maganda ang inyong gabi. Thank you to the Philippine Bayanihan Society Singapore, to Ranvier, to Miss Minnie, Miss Mary Ann, and of course, Sir Ed, for inviting the PSE to be part of your webinar series. We prepared a very interesting deck of slides for you this evening, and we hope that after the presentation you are enlightened and more informed and a little bit more knowledgeable to start your investment journey in the stock market. So I guess I'll start with my presentation para makarami nga po tayo, ika nga po nila. Okay. So today I will give you a 101 of the stock market. So we'll discuss the basics of stock market investing and basically the ins and outs, everything we need to know about the stock market. Okay, so hope everyone's seeing my slide. So please note that this webinar presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. This should not be construed as a professional, financial, or investment advice or recommendation from the PSE. So before I proceed to the subject matter, allow me to briefly introduce to you the Philippine Stock Exchange. Who are we? What is our role in the stock market ecosystem? So the Philippine Stock Exchange, or the PSE, is the only equities exchange in the Philippines. We are the sole marketplace for buying and selling stocks. We are considered one of the oldest stock exchanges in Asia, with the establishment of the Manila Stock Exchange in 1927. Now, in 1963, another stock exchange opened its doors to the then newly established Makati Central Business District. Now, the two stock exchanges, Manila and Makati, were unified in 1992 to form the Philippine Stock Exchange, or the PSE that we know today. The PSE is a corporation, we are a private entity, and we are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. We ourselves is also a self-regulatory organization which oversees our stakeholders, primarily our trading participants or our stockbrokers. To date, we have 130 active stock brokerage firms. We also regulate our listed companies. We have 271 listed companies with the listing of the first real estate investment trust, the Ayala REIT, just recently a few months ago. The PSE is also a publicly listed company. We listed our shares in 2003. Last year, we marked 1.23 or close to 1.23 million stock market accounts. Much of this is due to the online accounts, which has been growing by double-digit percentages year on year. 80% of our retail investors are locally employed, while close to 8% are self-employed. A little over 5% are retired. We also have OFWs investing in the stock market at 1%. Um, Less than 5% are unemployed, and we also have students at a little over 1%. Quite interesting to note that women actually outnumber men for online trading accounts. So this shows that investing is for everyone. And of course, 2/3 of our retail investors belong to the younger age group, which is aligned with the Philippine population, because we consider our population as in a demographic sweet spot wherein a majority of the Filipinos right now are in the working age or the productive age. Our median age is, I think, the last time I checked, 28 or 29 years old. People age 30 to 44 years old are the biggest patrons of online trading. A lot of people tell me or probably ask me, they think that investing is only for the rich, or only rich people can invest. Well, scrap that thought. It's a myth, because investing is actually for everyone. You can see that a sizable segment of our retail accounts are actually held by investors with an annual income of less than 500,000 a year. So this is basically your average Juan de la Cruz, you know. So if a person who's earning just 500,000 a year, 500,000 pesos a year is already investing in the market, then ask yourself, why don't I have investments yet? While we consider reaching the 1 million mark, a milestone in the PSE, we know that there is a long way to go, as we're barely hitting 1% of the Philippine population. That's why we continuously educate the market. We want to promote financial literacy and financial inclusivity through education, and we do it one webinar at a time. We beefed up our webinar portfolio this year. Before, we used to do our webinars quarterly, but now since the lockdown, we started doing our webinars weekly. So our topics range from the basics of stock market investing all the way to the intermediate and advanced topics. Very interesting. I invite you all to visit our Facebook page, like our Facebook page, and follow our posts to get updates from the PSE. We also have a YouTube channel, which also houses our recorded webinars in the past. We have a library of webinars there that you can check and watch at your own time. These webinars are very interesting. A lot of good topics for you to absorb. Okay, so enough about the PSE. I'm here and I'm tasked to discuss the basics of stock market investing. We can just slice the presentation into four. I'll start you off with why we need to save and invest, then followed by what are stocks, why invest in stocks, and finally, how to invest in stocks. So are you guys ready? Okay, let's begin. So why do we need to save and invest? Of course, we have this, what we call hashtag goals. Okay, everyone has their personal goals. May it be there for their own improvement or their career advancement. Some of you are probably thinking of buying your dream car or building your dream home. Or baka naman hashtag travel goals. You want to see the world. Or some people are thinking of settling down with their loved one, raising a family. So whatever our lifetime or hashtag goal is, we have to prepare for these goals. Say, for example, we want to plan for our dream vacation, and just for the sake of discussion, we want to set aside 240,000 pesos for a 10-day budget for two to our dream destination, and we plan to save up for the 240,000 for 60 months or 5 years. So that's around 4,000 pesos per month. We set aside 4,000 pesos per month, and for our dream vacation. Finally, after saving for 5 years, we have our 240,000 pesos. We're ready. So let's pack the bags and book the tickets and let's go. But we realized that after 5 years, the cost of our dream vacation actually went up to 270,000 plus pesos. Why is this the case? Because inflation is an economic phenomenon. It's a reality that happens every day, wherein the money you save today will not hold the same value tomorrow. You see, in economics, inflation is either cost push or demand driven. Cost push meaning the inputs of to the goods and services that we procure may increase. The prices may increase, or as we increase our consuming capability or our ability to spend, our demand for these goods and services increases. And of course, in the law of supply and demand, as the demand increases, the price increases. And as prices of goods and services increases, it actually results in a lower purchasing power for our money. So inflation, in effect, actually hurts our savings. Okay, so say back in 2010, a 500 peso bill looks like this. I remember back then, 500 peso would buy me a 25 kilo bag of rice, a decent rice, a really good one. Fast forward to 2020, 500 pesos looks a little bit different, and it can buy less amount of rice. I think right now, 5 to 10 kilograms of rice. Now in 2030, I'm not sure what the 500 pesos will look like then, if it's still going to be a bill or a coin. But one thing is for sure, it will buy less amounts of rice. Famous value investor Warren Buffett once said, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. Who wants to work until they die? Me, I want to retire early and, enjoy the fruits of my labor. And how will I do that? While it is true that we work for our money, we also have to take a different mindset, take that paradigm shift, and make money work for us. So which investment is suitable for you? Well, investment is not like a one size fits all. Investing is actually very personal. It's bespoke. It depends on your experience. It depends on your risk tolerance. It also depends on your time horizon. How long do you have left for you to invest? And also it depends on your culture and your sensitivities. Now, typically in my other presentations, I ask my participants to take the personality test. But in the interest of time, we will skip that. And I will jump to the different personality types and the suitable investments for these personality types. So let's start with the conservative investor. Now, the conservative investor, they just want capital protection. They want to protect their money. They want to make sure that it doesn't decrease in value at least. For them, peace of mind is a priority. They want to sleep soundly at night. Makatulog po ng mahimbing. So they're willing to forgo higher returns as long as they are invested in low-risk options or low-risk securities. And for the conservative investors, ideal would be to put your money in deposit products or bank products such as time deposits or savings accounts. There are actually savings accounts now in the Philippines that are giving annual interest rates of 3 to 4%. Particularly digital banks are offering them. So you may want to check those out. The deposits are insured up to 500,000 pesos by the PBIC. Now, the next level would be the moderately conservative investor. Now, the moderately conservative investor, they want, some sort of gaining or receiving regular income from their investments, so regular returns or regular yields. And they're taking that gradual approach to reaching their investment goals. So the moderately conservative investor, little risk, but they want some assurance from their investment. So a moderately conservative investor may take a combination of putting their money in deposit products and also what we call the fixed income based instruments. So these are bonds. So there are mainly two types of bonds. You have corporate bonds or the privately issued bonds. And the government or sovereign bonds such as the treasury bills, or if you've been reading about it, the RTBs, the retail treasury bills. So these are basically instruments of indebtedness. So meaning pagkakautang po ng ating issuer. So those institutions that issue the bonds are actually in debt to the bondholder. So since it is a debt instrument, you are expected to receive some sort of interest payment. So in the form of bonds, we call that the coupon rate or the coupon returns. Now the next stage, which frankly I consider myself a moderately aggressive investor. A moderately aggressive investor, for them the uncertainty of return is okay. It's acceptable. I'm okay with it. They're striking the balance between risk and return. I'm willing to take a little bit of risk as long as I'm gonna get a little bit more return out of it. So a moderately aggressive investor can take a look at investing a balance between fixed income instruments and also equity-based instruments such as stocks. All right. And finally, we have the aggressive investor. Now, the aggressive investor, their goal is really to grow their money. So capital appreciation is the priority for them, and they can tolerate short-term fluctuations. It's fine, the swings in the stock market, the ups and downs, they can take it. They're okay with that. And for them, bad news, they see bad news as opportunities for bigger gains. So it's an opportunity for them to buy more, to invest more in the market. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The different personality types: conservative, moderately aggressive, and aggressive. Now, do you want to know which type of investor are you? Well, watch our video. It's a 3-minute video posted in Facebook under our Financial Literacy Week playlist. It talks about investor personalities, and there's a 5-item questionnaire there. All you have to do is answer the 5-item questionnaire, and at the end of the video, it will show you how to tally your scores, and depending on your score, you will find out which type of investor are you. Now, regardless of which type, conservative or all the way to the aggressive investor, we have to take note of legitimate financial investments. So these are the products that we should only be investing in, or at least a derivative of these products, because we cannot be investing in products that are, different from these, because those products might be a form of scams. So anyway, what are legitimate financial investments? So like I said earlier, you have savings products. You can consider them as some sort of an investment as well. And a typical savings account will give you a return of 0.5% per annum. So you can consider a savings instrument or a savings product as a place for you to put your money in a short term. So if you have a short term need, like you're gonna need your money next year or probably in the next 2 years, then just you're better off putting it in the savings account. All right. And the next one we have, for the medium term, you can consider fixed income products, like government securities. On the average, gives around 2.5% per annum for a 5-year term. And for the long term, take note, long term, you can take a look at stocks. Now, stocks on a 10-year compounded annual growth rate, so that means it grows compounded. So it adds up every year on a compounded annual growth rate. The stocks actually grows by about close to 10% every year. That data is from 2009 to 2019. So looking at the 3 legitimate financial investment instruments here, the short term forms part of what we call your emergency fund. Now, my rule of thumb is 6 months of your cost of living. So how much do you spend in a month, for your rent or your amortization, your utilities and everything, food, all your expenditures. You account that, and you determine how much you spend in a month, and you multiply it by 6. Now, if you are able to save your 6 months worth of cost of living and form that part of your emergency fund, you don't touch that. So that's just your emergency fund. That's the only time you start thinking of investing for the medium and the long term. You see, an emergency fund is very important. A lot of people learned that, especially during this time, the pandemic. A lot of people lost their jobs. They think that they're very secured with their job. So if you're not ready for uncertainties such as that, then your finances is like a house of cards. You take one and then everything collapses. But anyway, you set up your emergency fund, and once your emergency fund is set, then you start looking at investing for the medium and the long term. Now, the combination of the medium and long term investment will form part of what we call your growth fund. So this is the money that you set aside for purpose of growing. It can be for your retirement, or it can be also for your long-term goals, such as buying a house or you know um, what have you. All right. Now, if I invested 100,000 pesos in Philippine stocks 10 or 20 years ago, how much will it be worth thereafter? The next few slides, I will show you a comparison of the performance of different investment vehicles. We have time deposits, we have treasury bills, the government bonds, and we also have stocks. So you can see that in the last 10 years, if you invested in the PSEI or the Philippine Stock Exchange Index, or companies that are part of the index, or you invested in stocks, your investment have definitely outperformed time deposits and treasury bills and beat inflation by many folds. So if you invested 100,000 back in 2009 in the index, your money would have been 256,000 in 2019. Now, looking at inflation, which on average is 3% per year, um, your 100,000 will have to be 134,000 pesos in 2019 for it to buy the same amount of goods and services. So if you put that money in the treasury bills, it would be less, and much less if you put it in the time deposit. Now, take 10 more years back. So let's look at the 20-year chart. Oh, you can see that in the span of 20 years, over time, in the long term, stocks really outperform the other investment alternatives. There's no debate into that, and also it beats inflation. But you have to consider this portion right here. There are also times that the stocks or the stock market goes down. One particular example is this year. So the stock market goes down, and when the stock market goes down, it's underperforming compared to inflation and also to the other investment alternatives out there, the time deposits and the treasury bill. So what's a key takeaway from the two historical charts that I showed you? It's really, when you think of investing, the concept of diversification. So you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So you don't put all your money in one investment instrument. So what you do is you spread it out, okay? You put some probably in fixed income. Of course, you have to put some in savings, and then you put some in stocks. Now the question is, how much? How much do I put in stocks? How much do I put in fixed income or bonds? And how much do I put in deposit accounts? Well, that depends. It goes back now to your investor personality type. You see? So you diversify based on your risk tolerance. So how much risk can you take for that additional amount of reward? So you see, investment is really bespoke to the person. So what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for the person next to you. Okay? So there are a lot of investment products that I can discuss, but today or tonight I am tasked to discuss stocks or equity products. So what are stocks? Stocks or equity. So think of a company as a pizza with a lot of slices. So wherein one slice is equal to one share. So one share or a share of stock represents units of ownership for that company. So when you buy shares of stock or slices in that pizza, you become a stockholder. And as a stockholder, you become part owner of that big company. And when you're part owner of a big company, you are entitled to the share in the company's profits. And of course, to participate in important decision-making process for that company. You do that during the annual stockholders meeting. How can we earn? So now I know what a stock is. I know what a stockholder is. How do I make money in the stock market? Well, there's two primary ways that for an investor to earn in the stock market. First is through price appreciation. Now, price appreciation is when you're actively trading or swing trading, as other market practitioners call it, wherein you time your entry and you try to find oversold stocks or undervalued stocks and try to buy them at the low price possible. And when those stocks start to pick up or recover, you sell at a higher price. So you buy low, you sell high. That's one thing. So the difference is your capital gains, and that's the money you make. Now, the next one, which personally I prefer more because, you know, you just invest it, you just put your money there, and then you wait for a share in the company's income. So the dividends. So you can also make money in the stock market through dividends. So companies, they distribute a share of their profits to their shareholders, and you're an owner of that company, and you're entitled to reap the benefits of the business that the company is in. Now there are three types of dividends. You have cash dividend, we have stock dividend, and we also have property dividend. Now, what are those three? Now, cash dividend is when a company declares from its earnings X amount of cash for every amount of share that you own. Now, stock dividend is when a company distributes more shares of stock for every share of stock that you own. Now, a property dividend is somewhat like a stock dividend, but the difference is they distribute stocks of another company. So probably you own company A, you're a stockholder of company A, and then company A also owns company B. So company A would like to distribute ownership of company A to shareholders of company B. So for every, you get X amount of shares of company B for every amount of share you have for company A. So that's property dividend for you. Now, dividend-paying stocks are also appreciating in price over time, over the long term. So this is actually enjoying two benefits: price appreciation and dividend payments. Now, earlier I said there are 271 listed companies in the PSE. So when someone asks you, how's the stock market going, or how's the stock market doing? Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it going sideways? Do you have to individually check the 271 listed companies and then compute how they're doing today, where they closed? Well, of course, you will take the entire day and probably all the way to the evening, and you won't be finished. So what the PSE did is we came up with an index, or the Philippine Stock Exchange Index. So you might be seeing this in the news, the PSEI. So what is an index? So an index is a representation of the entire market. So this is a fair representation, so a decent representation of the entire market. So instead of looking at all 271 listed companies, you just look at the index, and you'll find out how the market did today. Like today, October 22, the PSEI closed at 6,344.63 points. That's actually up by 66.04 points from yesterday's close, or 1.05%. Now, actually, in the last 4 days, the PSE has been, the index has been on a rally. It has been up in the last 4 days, primarily because of good news, as the Philippines is easing their lock-up restrictions in line with the COVID-19 pandemic. So, what composes the PSEI, or the Philippine Stock Exchange Index? So these are basically the 30 biggest and most actively traded companies in the PSE. So looking at the slide, or looking at those logos in the screen, a lot of them are actually familiar names or familiar images to you. If you think of fast food, you're probably craving the Chicken Joy of Jollibee. I'm not sure if there's Jollibee there in Singapore. You think of properties, you like the properties developed by Ayala Land. For banks, you have BPI, BDO, Metrobank. Of course, telephone companies, PLDT and Globe. So these are basically household names. So we call them the blue chip stocks. So why do we call them blue chip? Because in the game of poker, blue chip normally holds the highest value. So blue chip stocks have strong brand recall. So when you think of snacks, probably we think of Jack and Jill. I myself is a creamoholic. I like creamo. One of my favorite Filipino snacks. and they have sustained demand. So year in, year out, they're not affected by economic cycles or seasonal cycles. They have sustained demand throughout the year. They have a lion's share of the sector. They are a major player in the industry, and they have proven track record. They are resilient and have shown that they can weather any economic downturns and crisis. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic is really an extraordinary time for us. We are living in extraordinary times. And despite that fact, there are some companies that have shown resiliency over this crisis that we are in today. So why should I invest in stocks? Now I understand what a stock is. I know how I can earn. I also understand the index and what forms the index. So why should I invest in stocks? So there are a lot of benefits to investing in stocks, but I'll just give you three of my favorite actually. Number one is the liquidity feature of it. So it's very liquid. You can convert it into cash almost instantly. You know, you can buy or sell anytime as long as the market is open. And after you sell in 3 days, you should expect the proceeds of your sold shares. And pursuant to the continuing disclosure requirements of the PSE, listed companies are required to always update the investors on material information that's happening in the business. So you are always informed about what's going on in the company. And we have actually created a platform for that. Our disclosure system is world class. We call it the PSE Edge, or the Electronic Disclosure Generation Technology. It's a free mobile app. Investors can download it if they're using Android or iOS. It's available in both operating systems. And of course, these are big companies, the biggest companies in the Philippines, which are operated and run by world-class professionals, following the highest corporate governance standards. So you are riding on the acumen or the whiz of the entrepreneur behind it, which is supported by world-class professionals. Okay, I'm convinced. How do I do it? How do I invest in stocks? Well, before you even get your feet wet, um, let me give you an overview of the stock market ecosystem. So how does it work? How does the stock market work? So it all starts with the listed companies, or the companies before they become listed. Okay, so companies, growing companies, they need money. They need money to expand their business. So may it be to acquire new land, new facilities, new equipment, or to acquire other companies. They need cash. They need the capital. And there are actually three ways of raising capital. They can raise it from their operating cash, or but if they do that, it will take them years before they grow. Or they can borrow money from the banks, or issue corporate bonds or debt instruments. That's another way to do it. And another, finally, is to raise capital through equity, or offering part ownership of your company in exchange for capital. So companies that are doing this in a public stage for the first time are doing an initial public offering, or what we call an IPO. So companies that do IPO offer their shares to the public and list it in the Philippine Stock Exchange, or the PSE. So investors who buy in the IPO are actually buying in what we call the primary market. So they're buying brand new shares straight from the company. Now, on listing day, after the IPO period, investors who bought during the IPO may either sell their shares if they're already making money, or if they want to buy more or invest more into that company, they can also buy more shares. And also, investors who were not able to invest during the IPO may buy shares in the secondary market, or what we call now the stock market. So all orders in the stock market or the secondary market are coursed through the stockbroker. So these are the 130 stock brokerage firms that I mentioned earlier. Now, the stockbrokers will forward the orders to the PSE's fully automated trading engine or trading system. Now, this happens very fast in split seconds. So, we do a lot of transactions in a day, billions and billions of pesos day in, day out, exchange hands in the PSE. So now what happens after the trade? So on T plus 3, we call it T plus 3 or trading day plus 3 days, you get the proceeds of your sales or the shares that you bought. So on T plus 3, so say for example, today is Thursday, you bought your shares today, you count 3 days. Friday, Monday, Tuesday. So the Tuesday would be the settlement date. So the settlement happens here at our central clearinghouse or the SCCP. So it acts as the intermediary between the buying and the selling side. So the SCCP ensures that there is no default in the transaction. So the buying broker will always deliver the cash and the selling broker will always deliver the shares. So where are those shares that you're investing in? So where are you expecting to get the certificate? Well, in the PSE, our shares are completely electronic. So meaning they're scriptless. So it's the electronic shares that allows those securities to be very liquid. So you can actively trade them because they're electronic. So where do we store them? We store them in our central depository or the PDTC. So the PDTC right here acts as the custodian of your electronic shares. All right. So there are a lot of products to invest in the PSE, but all of these products are equity-based products. So meaning these are shares of stocks. So I already discussed to you what a share of stock is. It's a unit of ownership of a public corporation, which can either be common or preferred. So common, they have voting rights. They are also entitled to dividends. And preferred, have a little preference over the common shares. It can be in the form of dividends. So they have a fixed amount of dividends per year. And of course, they are paid out first. And in the event of a liquidation, the preferred shareholders are paid out first before the common shareholders. Now, we have three more interesting products for you. We have the exchange traded fund or the ETF. Now, what's an ETF? Well, so if you're familiar already with the mutual fund, so basically a mutual fund is a company wherein it pulls money and then they invest it in different stocks if it's an equity-based fund. So that is an ETF actually. An ETF or an exchange traded fund is a mutual fund company that invests money in other listed companies. Now, the difference between an ETF and a mutual fund is an ETF company, their shares are listed in the stock market. So meaning you can buy and sell ETF or exchange traded fund shares anytime as long as the market is open. Now, an exchange traded fund also is required to track an index. So it is in fact an index fund. And for this matter, we have one ETF listed in the PSE. It's the Philippine First Metro Equity Exchange Traded Fund or the FMETF. Now, the FMETF actually tracks the PSEI or the Philippine Stock Exchange Index. So if you remember, I discussed to you what the PSEI is. It's formed by the 30 of the biggest and most actively traded companies, so the blue chip stocks. So an ETF product, the FM ETF, is actually an instant basket of the PSEI or the index. So if you want to invest in the index and you don't have the time to go and check all the 30 companies, or if you want to buy all 30, it's very expensive. So you just buy the ETF. When you're buying the ETF, you're automatically diversified. So it gives you the best of both worlds, the diversification of a mutual fund and the liquidity of a stock. Put that together, exchange traded fund. And if you have extra dollars in your savings account, you may want to consider investing in dollar-denominated securities. So these are basically shares of stock that are listed, traded, and settled in US dollars. And just recently, we saw the first listing of the Real Estate Investment Trust or the REIT. I know there's a lot of REITs in Singapore, so if you must be very familiar with the product. So basically, a REIT or a Real Estate Investment Trust is a company that owns and operates income-generating real estate assets. So they're basically a company in the business of making money from their real estate. So they can own a lot of corporate buildings and make money from the rentals, apartment buildings or residential buildings. They can own toll roads, airports, hospitals, seaports. Basically, any real estate that can generate cash flow can be listed as a real estate investment trust or a REIT. Now, what's the difference between a REIT company and a property company that is not a REIT? Well, in the Philippines, the REIT is required to distribute 90%, that's 90% of its distributable income annually as dividends to its stockholders. Quite interesting, right? And of course, if you're invested in REITs, because of that requirement, you can rely on regular dividends and big dividends for that matter. Capital appreciation is one benefit because the underlying assets for the REITs are real estate, and we all know that real estates they tend to go up in value over the long term. Now, investing in real estate, you may not have as much liquidity as investing in a REIT because a REIT, the shares are actively traded in the market. So if you need some of your money, you can sell a portion of your investment. You can sell all of it as long as the market is open. And of course, you're diversified because when you buy a REIT shares, you're not just buying one real estate property. You're actually buying a basket of properties owned by that real estate company, real estate investment trust company. So how do I start my stock market investment journey? So it's just like opening an account with a bank. But the difference is you're opening an account with a stock brokerage firm for the purpose of investing or trading stocks. All right. So you start by opening an account with a PSE accredited stockbroker. So we have 130 stock brokerage firms that are active right now in the PSE. 32 of them are online. So if you want to find out the complete list, just visit our website, www.pse.com.ph. And if you are going to open an online account, you have to fund that account first, to put some money in that account. And once you have funded that account, you are ready to invest. You can enter your buying orders. And once you've bought shares of stock and the price have gone up already, you're making money, you can also sell. Or you can hold it for the long term. That's up to you. There's no minimum holding period or maximum holding period in the stock market. When can I buy and sell shares of stock? We are open from Mondays to Fridays, except on holidays. Before, our trading schedule is a whole day from 9 o'clock to 3:30, but we shortened it due to the COVID-19 pandemic to allow the employees and market practitioners to go home earlier. So our shortened trading hours are as follows. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning with the pre-open phase. So what happens during the pre-open phase? Investors can start keying in their orders, their buying and selling orders, but the orders are not yet matched. So they're just being queued there. Now at 9:15, those orders can no longer be canceled or modified. So during 9:15 from 9:15 to 9:29, this is when the trading engine determines the opening price. Now at 9:30 a.m. the market opens, so this is when all those orders are matched, and from 9:30 all the way to 12:45, this is what we call the continuous phase. So buying and selling and matching of orders happen during this time. Now at 12:45, we enter the pre-close. So entering of the orders is still allowed, but there's no matching of the orders. At 12:48 is the pre-close, no cancel. During this time, the trading engine determines the closing price. Now at 12:50, those orders that can be matched will be matched at the last trading price or the closing price. Now this is what we call the trading at last. And finally, the market closes at 1 o'clock to resume again at 9 o'clock the following day. Now, people have been asking me how much is the minimum investment? Magkano ba to start in the stock market? So there's a big misnomer here. They think that there's an absolute value. Is it 5,000 pesos, 10,000 pesos, 50,000 pesos, 100,000 pesos? Well, the minimum investment actually depends on the company or the shares of stock that you want to buy. So what is their price? Okay. And depending on the price, what is the corresponding lot size based on the board lot table? Now, the lot size is the minimum number of shares required to buy that particular stock. I'll give a few examples. Okay, so today, these are some blue chips. Please note, these are not recommendations, just for educational and discussion purposes only. Metro Pacific Investments, a conglomerate, a holding firm that has businesses in toll roads, hospitals, very diverse business. Okay, they close at 3 pesos and 99 centavos. So let's check here in the price range. So 3 pesos and 99 centavos is right here between 50 centavos and 4.99. So the lot size or the minimum is 1,000 shares. So to buy Metro Pacific, you need around 4,000 pesos to start investing in Metro Pacific. That's a minimum investment for that particular stock. Now, if you want to invest with Lushutan, the Lushutan Group, Philippine Airlines, Tanduay Ram, or what else? Fortune Tobacco. Those are the businesses, right? The holding company closed at 11.96. So let's check the price. 11.96 is between 5 pesos and 49.95. So we need 100 shares to start investing in LT Group. So that's around 1,200 pesos. Plus the fees. So I'll talk about the fees in the next slide. Very minimal fees. You like the property projects of Ayala Land. So Ayala Land closed at 33.5. So 33.5 is where? Okay, still here in this range, 5 to 49.95. So you need around 3,400 to invest in Ayala Land, 3,400 pesos minimum. You want a company in the food business or in the food production business, such as Universal Robina, which closed at 140 pesos per share. So they're in this range. You need 10 shares, so around 1,400 pesos to start investing in URC or Universal Robina. How about San Miguel Corporation? Well, they're not only in the food business, but also considered one of the most diverse conglomerates in the Philippines. They closed at 105.70 pesos. So that's well within this range. Also, 10 shares minimum, so around 1,100 pesos to start investing in San Miguel. Telco business actually are thriving, especially during this time. A lot of us are working from home. Globe today closed at 2,000 pesos and 2,038 pesos. So that's over 1,000 pesos right here. So you need 5 shares minimum to invest in Globe. So that's around a little over 10,000 pesos. So those are a few examples to determine how much is the minimum investment when you want to start investing in stocks. So it really depends on the stock and how much their price is. Okay. So the fees. The table right here shows you all the applicable fees for both buying and selling transactions. So you have the broker's commission, the VAT or the value added tax on that commission. We have a fee for the clearing, the SECP fee, a fee for the trading, the PSEP. When you're selling shares, you're also subject to what we call the stock transaction tax or the sales tax. So the total buying transaction will cost you 0.295% of the gross value, while the total selling will cost you 0.895%. So not even 1%. So the total transaction cost or friction cost for both the entire cycle, the buying and selling, is around 1.20%. An example, of course, we buy our own PSE shares. So say, for example, I bought 100 shares, 100 PSE shares at 138 pesos. My gross transaction value is 13,800. Now, the broker's commission for that is 34 pesos and 50 centavos. Now, the VAT is 4 pesos and 14 centavos. SECP will charge you 1 peso and 38 centavos for their services, and the PSE will charge you 69 pesos for their services. So the total transaction cost now is 13,840 pesos and 71 centavos. Now, say after a few months, the stock price went up to 157 pesos and you want to sell already and, realize those gains. So the gross transaction value there will be 15,700 pesos. The applicable broker's commission is at 39 pesos and 25 centavos. The VAT on that is at 4.71. SECP will charge you 1 peso and 59 centavos for that. PSE will charge you 79 centavos for their services. And of course, the tax, you have to pay the sales tax of 94 pesos and 20 centavos. So deduct all of those costs and you will get your net proceeds of 15,559 pesos and 48 centavos. So get the difference between your net selling proceed and your total buying cost. That's your capital gain. So you've already made money in the stock market by buying low and selling high. Of course, this is just for illustration purposes only. Okay, some useful PSE apps. So while you are already thinking of starting investing in the stock market, please remember that an informed investor is always at an advantage. So it's very good to keep yourself informed. And how can you do that? You download the PSE Edge. So the PSE Edge features listed company disclosures, which includes announcements, financial reports, dividends, and exchange notices. So very, very useful for investors. you get the information firsthand in PSE Edge. While, of course, the information may be made available in business newspapers and the business news, you get it first here in PSE Edge, and you get it here completely. And for those who want to trade online, you may want to consider using the PSE TradeX platform. Now, the PSE TradeX is our online trading platform. We offer this to stockbrokers so that the stockbrokers can offer this to their clients. So we recognize the fact back in 2013 that the way to grow the market is to enable stockbrokers to offer online trading to their clients. So before, we only have a few stockbrokers, and now we have 32 online stockbrokers, and most of them, not all, but most of them are enabled by PSE TradeX. And of course, Ms. Mary Ann already um, discussed about PSE Easy earlier. It is our IPO, our initial public offering subscription platform. So even if you're in Singapore, you can subscribe to IPOs through PSE Easy. Of course, just a quick presentation on investor rights. So there are a lot of investor rights listed in the PSE website. I already summarize them into four, the tips. We call them the tips. Number one, treatment. So all investors are entitled to fair treatment, regardless if you're the big investor or a small investor. You should be treated practically the same. You're entitled to vote. That's your right. And of course, a share in the company's profits. Best execution for your orders. So if you call your broker and you ask your order to buy you shares, if the broker can buy you shares at a better price, they should do so. If the brokers can also, and if you want to sell and the brokers can sell at a better price, they should do so. And of course, the brokers should prioritize your orders from their own. Information. As investors, you have the right to access timely information and accurate financial statements. So that's why we provided PSE Edge already. And of course, the companies, the listed companies, are audited by SEC Group A auditors. So these are big auditing firms in the Philippines, with most of them have international affiliates. And you must have access to your portfolio on demand. So if you need to be updated, you must be able to get a copy of your updated statement of account when you ask it from your broker. And when the dividends are paid out, it should be reflected in your portfolio immediately. And of course, if you want to oversee the operations of your broker, you are free to do so. You can check out how they do their business. And of course, at the PSE, we ensure that our trading participants, or our TPs, are very responsible. We have our Capital Markets Integrity Corporation that is actively monitoring and regulating the stockbrokers. And if you have problems with them, you have all the right to recourse to disputes, and the CMIC will also help you with that one. Okay, so we've covered a lot of things, but hopefully just the basics that you need to know to start your stock market journey. The learning doesn't stop here, okay? The learning actually continues. I've been in the market over 10 years, and I'm still learning up to this day. So it might be a cliche, but it's really a very close comparison. Investing in the stock market is like going on a roller coaster ride. So before you even take a seat and fasten your seatbelt, you have to be sure. You ask yourself, what do I want to achieve? So you have to list down your financial objectives. And when you start when you finally start doing your investments, you have to follow your plan. Stick to your plan. Don't follow the herd mentality. There's a lot of Facebook groups out there. They hype stocks. Don't fall victim to them, please. And in your investments, you have to take rational decisions. It's just like feelings, as long as you're rational, you should be fine. And of course, you don't let the volatility distract you. Okay, so that's how the stock market is. It goes up, it goes down, but over the long term, in the long run, in general, stocks, they tend to go up. Why? Because these are businesses, these are companies, and companies with management behind them, and the management's goal is to maximize shareholder value. And if you're the type who can take on risks, when stocks go down, you may consider rebalancing your portfolio. And when you do so properly, you get more gains in the future. So there are a lot of factors that cause stock prices to go down. fundamental technical factors, but there are also factors that are beyond our control. External factors like, geopolitical risk, the U.S.-China trade war a few years back. Of course, we have black swans. In 2020, we experienced a lot of black swans, which is, in my experience, in my 10 years, is very, 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 very. I am at a loss for words. Talagang hindi pangkaraniwan. It's very extraordinary. This COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, economic downturns. The economy is a cycle. It goes up, it goes down, and then it recovers again. So what's the key takeaway in this slide? Like I said earlier, stock market investing is for the long term. You think long term. And if you do so, you'll be just fine. Okay, so we face so much challenges and anxiety during these difficult times. Let your financial investments not be one of them. Join our PSE community. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We're also on Twitter. Watch our YouTube webinars. In Facebook, we have already over 300,000 followers. If you need to get in touch with us, you can call our hotline 8876-4888 or email investing@pse.com.ph or academy@pse.com.ph. Visit our websites. There are a lot of useful information there for corporate info. Visit the PSE website, www.pse.com.ph. For disclosures, go to Edge. If you want more reading materials, visit the PSE Academy website. We're actually revamping that. There's going to be a new Academy website next year, so watch out for that too. And allow me to take this opportunity to invite you in our webinar tomorrow. Our guest speaker from one of our stock brokerage firm will discuss profiting from megatrends and historical patterns. Very timely topic. Just showing you the webinars we did in October, and we have 2 more left, one tomorrow and another one next week. And that about completes my presentation. I would again like to thank the Philippine Bayanihan Society in Singapore, and I wish you more power, and I'm ready to take questions. So back to our host.
Hi. Thank you so much, John. That's a lot to learn. Thank you so much. It's like back to school, actually. So, I actually was trying to calculate what's the minimum amount I can open an account, and it's only 500 pesos I can open an account, isn't it? Is that?
There are stockbrokers that are offering a very low minimum account opening. Yeah.
How low is low, if I may ask?
Typically it's 5,000 pesos, but sometimes they offer a promo 1,500 pesos. But really, it's just for opening the account. What you have to consider is what stock do you want to buy, and how much is that stock, and what's the minimum number of shares you need for that stock.
Oh, okay. Well, at least if I have 5,000, I can open an account. But the follow-up question that I have is, who can open an account? Because can foreigners open an account? Can somebody staying overseas open an account? Or can companies themselves open an account? Or like non-profit organizations, can they open an account in PSE?
Yes to all of those questions. So the stock market is for everyone. We have retail accounts, which is open to retail Filipinos and retail foreign accounts. We have institutional accounts for corporates and nonprofit organizations too. And if you are overseas, you can open an account. Especially now, the SEC has relaxed the KYC requirement. So you can open an account without having to personally meet the stockbroker. So you can do a Zoom like this and do your KYC and submit your documents online. In fact, there are a lot of brokers who have already devised a completely electronic account opening process.
Oh, wow. So they don't have to be Filipino citizens.
You don't have to be Filipino citizens. You don't have to be in the Philippines. You can open an account.
Oh, that's good news for everyone here in Singapore and elsewhere. So, okay.
Definitely.
There's a question about an app, whether you have if you want to learn more about the stock market, do you have an app where people can try on it before they actually invest in stock market?
Okay, like a simulator, like a trading game app. Yeah. Okay. We are actually developing a market data portal. It's an app. They can download. Once it's out, you can download it in your phones, and you can get real-time market information there for free. And through that app, you can build your portfolio. Even if you're not using real money, but the data is real, so the experience is close to real. Of course, without the reality of losing money. So you learn with less tuition. So
So,
hopefully we release that in the fourth quarter of this year.
okay, fourth quarter. So let's
Yeah,
begin.
I think they're planning to release it in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So watch out for that.
Okay.
Follow us in Facebook. We do all the announcements there.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we can do some like practice kind of trading on.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. That's nice. I'm just looking at some questions. Somebody's curious about mutual funds, though. You have mentioned them. What
Yes, ma'am.
and how much are they going up and down? If you can explain.
Okay. A mutual fund is an indirect way to invest in markets. So there are actually four types of mutual funds. Okay. We have the money market funds, wherein it's invested in securities that mature in less than a year. Then we have the fixed income fund, which are invested in debt instruments like bonds and treasury bills. Then we also have the equity-based funds, which are invested in stocks, and we have bond funds, which are invested in, balance funds, which are invested in a combination of stocks and bonds. So they perform depending on how the underlying asset is performing. So if we're talking about, since this is a stock market 101 seminar, so we talk about equity-based fund. So their performance is really, if you've invested in them in the stock in the mutual fund, the stock-based mutual fund a few years ago, then the performance would be not as favorable. But the good news about it is, if you want to invest more, they're actually cheaper now.
Okay, so it's good to and it seems that the stock market has been bullish these days. It's going up.
It has been bullish on good news, because the government is easing restrictions on the lockdown. So meaning more companies can operate, and as more companies operate, more revenues, more profits.
Oh, okay, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Okay, there's a question here about does PSE Academy have reading materials on different investment strategies like Fibonacci or support and resistance, that kind of materials?
Even better, we actually conducted a webinar last September 25. It's a technical analysis webinar which will teach you the basics on how to read stock charts, and it only takes an hour to watch. And on October 30, we'll do a fundamental analysis webinar, wherein we will teach you how to evaluate a stock to determine if a particular stock is overpriced or underpriced. So I invite you also to attend that. But if you're the reading type, all of the reading materials are available in the Academy website. They're accessed for free.
Oh, okay. I'm interested in that, whether it's overpriced or underpriced lecture.
Oh, yes, ma'am. That webinar is on next Friday, October 30.
Okay, and then I'm just looking at all the questions. I think everyone finds, of course, excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely. There's a question here. I think it's not so, sorry, with those we think not so relevant, we might not mention them. Okay, we're back to stock market. A question that I have,
Yes, ma'am.
what are the requirements of a company before it can get listed?
Okay, a company needs to meet certain requirements for the PSE to get listed. It needs to show track record of profitable performance. So the PSE, we're not just only the marketplace for raising capital, but we are also the protector of investor rights. So we have to make sure that these companies are fit for the investors. So we check if the company has been operating very well in the past. How is their business doing? Are they profitable? There's a minimum profitability requirement. We also check if we have two boards. We have a main board for the big companies, and we also have the SME board for the small companies. Now, the SME board, these are for high growth, high potential companies, but they need to submit additional requirements. And one additional requirement is the business plan. So we have to make sure that their business plan is sound and doable. And we also check what they plan to do with the money. So we ask them, what will you do with the money that you intend to raise? So are you going to expand the business? Are you going to pay debt? So a lot of requirements. But I think the long of the short there is really we make sure that these companies are fit enough to be listed in the stock market because we prioritize investor protection.
Okay. Can I ask how many years of track record do you require before a company can apply for listing?
Yes. Current listing rules, we require them. They have to be operational for at least 3 years. Okay. And in the 3 years of operation, they have to be profitable. Well, if you're listing for the main board, you have to be profitable more than 50 million pesos per year. But if you're listing for the SME board, much relaxed requirement. So only I think 5 million pesos per year, and one of the 3 years can be negative. So we make it a little bit easier for the SMEs to list.
Oh.
But of course, they have to be promising. They have to show ability to be profitable and to share those profits to the investors.
Okay. Still trying to see what questions we have. I think how can we regain Filipinos to invest rather than those, what's MLM, multi-level?
MLM is multi-level marketing companies. So these are actually business schemes that hide behind the MLM moniker, but they are actually a pyramiding scheme. Which is another form of an investment scam. But not all MLMs are investment, but majority of them may be. How do we regain Filipinos? Well, this is what we do. We educate. We try to educate the market. We try to make the knowledge accessible to all Filipinos. I even have a tagline, promoting financial literacy one webinar at a time.
One webinar at a time. That's cute. Okay. Okay. Then how much is capital gains tax in the Philippines?
CGT, I think now is at 0.6 or sorry, 6%. But the CGT tax is not applicable for stocks. We are exempted from that.
Okay.
Yeah, the only applicable tax for the stock market is the stock transaction tax, which is 60 basis points or a little over 0.5%. Very small.
Okay, I'm looking at a question, how to apply. This from the Facebook. Somebody is asking, paano po mag-apply? How to apply? This is with regards to...
Paano po mag-apply? So how to open an account? Yun po ba?
Maybe that's what it means, yes.
Yeah, how to open an account. So you can contact your friendly broker. The first step would be, if the easier one, if you already have a savings account with the major banks in the Philippines, most of them have stock brokerage firms or stock brokerage arms. So you can also inquire there. But if you don't have leads like that, you can visit our website, www.pse.com.ph, and under trading participants, we have there the complete directory of all the stockbrokers, and their contact details are there.
Okay, thank you. So if I have 5,000 pesos, I go to a broker that may be listed in your website?
Yes, you can contact that broker and ask them how they can facilitate an account opening process for you. You are based in Singapore, and they are very accommodating. They'll open your account, definitely.
Okay, that's good to hear. Okay, how can we qualify to be a stockholder? One question from our Facebook account.
Yeah, so when you start investing in the stock market, meaning you have already opened your account, you have funded that account, and you bought shares of stock, you are immediately a stockholder. And as a stockholder, you are entitled to dividends, a share in the company's profits. And if you want to participate in the annual stockholders meeting and exercise your right to vote, you are very welcome to do so.
Okay, a quick question. You mentioned earlier that anyone can open accounts. We do have some Filipino organizations in Singapore. Can they apply to invest in the stock market in the Philippines?
Yes, those
They're registered here, but
organizations.
sorry, they're
Yes,
registered here, but not in Manila.
yes, definitely. They will be under what we call a foreign institutional account.
Oh, what are the requirements for those?
There's a set of requirements for those. Part of the KYC requirements. It varies depending on the brokers, but there's like a baseline requirement, like if it's a corporation, the articles of corporate incorporation, the officers, the authorized signatories, of course, and the KYC requirements of the authorized signatories, their IDs, specimen signature, etc. But all documents can be submitted electronically. That's the beauty of it. So, and the KYC, the interview can be done virtually.
Yeah, okay.
So, Philippine Bayanihan Singapore as an entity can also invest in the stock market, of course.
We have to raise money, yes.
Make that money grow.
Let that money grow, indeed, indeed. How to become a PSE certified securities specialist?
Oh, very good question. Well, before you have to do it, it's an in-classroom. It's an in-classroom setup. So it's a 127-hour program that we do. Yeah, so 127-hour program that we do with our partner schools. Our partner schools are Ateneo, UP, LaSalle. We also have UST. We have one in Cebu, University of San Carlos. So all of the schools, we do it before in classroom, but because of the pandemic, these schools now are actually talking to us, and we are planning on conducting a virtual or an online CSSC. So they have the platform. So the good news about it is, if you're interested and you're overseas, soon it will be made available to you. So follow again our social media accounts, or regularly visit the Academy website for announcements.
Oh, thank you so much. I don't see any more question, I think. Everyone is saying that has been a very wonderful presentation, very informative, and I totally agree. And I know that now I can invest, open account, and I think anyone, if I can invest, anyone else can invest.
Exactly. Investing is for everyone.
Yeah, which is good news. So that's good. So, okay, hold on. There's one more here. I think not. What tips? Sorry, last question. What tips can you give in selecting the broker? Can we bypass the broker?
Okay. All secondary market transactions, meaning if you are buying in the stock market, so companies that are already listed, so you're not buying an IPO, huh? You have to buy through the broker. That's the ecosystem. That's the structure. So all orders are coursed through the broker. So it's just like having a savings account. You need to open one with the bank. So for this case, if you want a trading account in the stock market, you need to open one with the stockbroker. Even if you're buying in IPOs, actually, you buy directly through the PSEI platform, but the shares on listing day will have to be credited to your stock brokerage account, whichever you nominate.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much, John, for that very, very, very informative and educational presentation. I think we learned a lot on how to invest in the Philippine stock market. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Mini, and thank you to the Philippine Bayanihan Society in Singapore. Thank you, everyone, for sending in your questions. And I do hope you all have a very pleasant evening.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we also thank as well our sponsor for tonight, Century Properties. May I now invite Ms. Christy Vicentina, our Honorary Vice President of the Society, to deliver the closing remarks. Christy, please.
Thank you, Minnie. Good evening to our friends and kababayans in Singapore, and to our friends and families in the Philippines. Mabuhay! On behalf of Philippine Bayanihan Society Singapore, allow me to say thank you to the people who helped us for tonight's webinar. I think this is our 11th already. Ms. Margarita Locsin, thank you for the introduction to the guest speaker and for suggesting this very useful and timely topic. And of course, thank you, Mr. John Garcia, for the very informative sharing indeed. Kaya konti na lang siguro yung tanong. Sana po marami tayong natutunan that we can apply as we aim to diversify and grow our personal funds. So allow me to share some of my own personal takeaway from the lecture. Remember hashtag goals. So save but must invest to at least beat the inflation. Or we can make a hashtag goal, make our money work for us so we do not work till we die. And if I may echo John's reminder, I think this is a very important reminder. The stock market is an investment facility and it's for long-term investment. Remember, walang nagpo-post sa Facebook na natalo sila sa stocks. Madalang lang. Halos wala. So lagi lang silang panalo. So it's important that we understand where we put our hard-earned money. Maraming salamat din to all our friends who always help us share and promote our webinars. Philippine Embassy Singapore, led by His Excellency Ambassador Yap. Richard and Rex of FLPH. Wala pa yung wala pa yung webinar invite namin, hinihingi na nila sa akin. So maraming salamat for your team. Lynn of CDE, thank you. Doc Eugene, Eloisa, and Evelyn of Faust. You're always on Facebook. Miss Virgie and Miss Virgie of STP Faust Group Dance and the whole team, nandyan kayo lagi. And Millet of Fast, BNG, Rita J, Lucky Plaza Ladies, UAP, Ateneo LSE, Excalibur, Olive and Ernie, I saw you there. Kabayanihan. So we have a new group who are supporting us and sharing the webinars. Kabayanihan and Jehan Bulanadi and Arvin David. Maraming salamat. This is being shared up to Dubai nowadays. So thank you to your members. And maraming salamat to all our participants sa Zoom and Facebook viewers. Please don't forget to click the like button for us para dumami yung likes namin. So please join us again on next Thursday. That's November 5 for another investment talk with the Bureau of Treasury, and we will learn and relearn retail treasury bonds. So save the date, that's November 5. Mabuhay and good evening. Back to you, Minnie.
Okay, thank you so much, Christy, for that. Yes, thank you so much for that. Indeed, the next Bayanihan webinar is on November 5. And this time, as what Christy has said, we will have a special guest from the Bureau of Treasury of the Philippines, who will be conducting a roadshow for the second chance to invest in the infrastructure development of the country. So the topic is about premium bonds, the second tranche, and the speaker will be none other than the distinguished Philippine treasurer herself, Ms. Rosalia V. De Leon. So please join us in the next webinar. Lastly, but not the least, PBSS is partnering with one of the most awarded choirs in the world, the Philippine Madrigal Singers, for a project called A Christmas Carol with the Mads. Mads is their lovely nickname. In this project, participants get a chance to learn how to sing properly with no less than the renowned Philippine singers as the teachers. The registration details are flashed on your screen and posted on our website and on our Facebook page. So before we end our program, here's something for everyone, a recital organized by the Mads, and this is the result of their workshop. Hope you will like it. That's how it's going to be if you join us and we learn from the best. I hope you will join us and support this project, and we will see this kind of concert at the end. This is Minnie Lau, and together with the board and staff of the Philippine Bayanihan Society Singapore, we say thank you for joining us tonight. Till the next webinar, keep safe, good night, and God bless.